Hello, and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Kevin Akeroyd, CEO of Sovos. Sovos is a always-on tax compliance software that sits in the background of other softwares that helps ensure tax regulation and compliance is met without any kind of screw up. Because if there's one thing all of us dread, it's making a tax screw up. And with that, here's my interview with Kevin. Kevin, thanks for taking the time today.
Likewise, Jason, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So Kevin Akeroyd of Sovos, tell us about Sovos.
Sovos, you said it pretty well. That tagline is pretty accurate. We are a compliance company specific to taxes. And basically, whether it's as simple as making sure that a sales or use tax rate gets done in real time at the cash register at a retailer like Home Depot here directly, all the way to making sure that Fortune 500 companies can actually do operations because they're compliant in over 85 countries around the world that have tax compliance laws, and everywhere in between. We're that behind the scenes company that makes sure that companies stay compliant on all things tax, and therefore they avoid nasty audits and they stay compliant and can continue to do their operations in the countries they do business in.
So bottom line is you do your job right. No one should ever notice.
That's exactly right. You should never hear about us. If you do, there's something going wrong.
All right. So let's talk about the history of the company. How did it come to be?
Boy, this company is got some legs to it. 2.5 decades ago, it was actually an original carve out of a tax business inside the big ADP, the big payroll guys. People saw tax as a discrete opportunity. It got carved out literally 25 plus years ago. It then went on several rounds of private equity ownership, continued to acquire more and more companies. And that acquisition spree was both on capabilities to widen more and more of the overall tax landscape that the company can actually cover for on behalf of its clients was one vector. And two is more and more countries. Because again, unlike here in the United States, if you get tax wrong, you can get an audit or a fine, which is not good, right? That's a big deal. With these new continuous tax control mandate countries, like in Europe or in Asia Pacific or in the Middle East, you literally can't operate, right? The supply chain stops, the truck stops at the border, the ocean freight container doesn't come in. It's a big deal. You literally cease to operate. And that's going on in dozens and dozens of countries. And that required a country specific acquisition roll-up strategy to begin with too. So 22 acquisitions and 25 years later, Sovos is this large global platform that does pretty much everything that the customer would need in pretty much any country that the customer would need it in. But its first chapter was carve out. Its second chapter was a big roll-up of acquisitions. And the third chapter, the one that I'm presiding on, is while we're continuing to do a few tuck-in acquisitions, for the most part, it's now finishing the job of integrating all that, making it all one seamless platform, making it AI powered, making it cloud ready, making it interoperable into all the other systems, et cetera. So we're kind of in chapter 3, which is the most fun part. We bought all the Legos.
Fun. Interesting way
of
of
Legos
saying it.
together, and now we're going to market.
Yeah. When you start talking about integrating all that, I clutched my heart there for a second.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes. For those who don't understand the fact that when you have, let's call it 24 code bases that were never built to be interoperable or to record things the exact same way.
That's exactly right.
Oh my goodness.
It is incredibly hard to do. It takes a lot of money and it takes years of sweat equity to make it that one single system of record, one UI, one product, one login, one identity, one set of reporting, one workflow, one integration into ERP, et cetera. It's extremely heavy lifting, but when you do it, it's fantastic for the customer, right? Check. And it's really hard to replicate. So for businesses like Sovos, it's really, really hard for somebody to go repeat that. So it leaves us in this beautiful place where we're really the only animal in the jungle that can do some of the things that we can do. So there is some payout for all that blood, sweat, and tears at the back end, certainly for your customers, but for you too. When you're the company that went through all that, and you're now really the only company that can do things at the scale and at the geographic reach that you can do, there is an eventual reward for all that sweat equity, but it takes a while to get there.
It's the level of complexity and the level of specific geographic learning or geographic domain specific knowledge necessary to create something that works in that many countries and then have it roll up. That is, you're right. Like that is not going to be easy to replicate. And
It's not.
it's gonna take even if someone could go and buy the number 2 player or the whatever is available in
It's
every
still gonna be really
jurisdiction,
hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and congratulations. Welcome to day one of integrating all that. And it's
Here
like,
you go. You good. Call me in 10 years when you've done what I just did. Right.
yeah,
Exactly. And that's right. The Fortune 500 client wants the simplicity. Hey, can you handle the complexity of 85 different countries doing things 85 completely different ways
Mhm.
so that I don't have to? That's really the need. Because imagine an enterprise trying to go focus on this themselves. It's a core competency that they need to rely on somebody to do from a technology and data standpoint. And as much from a intellectual property and knowledge, you need people that sit with these tax authorities and understand and influence where legislation is coming from and what the tax rules are going to be and how it's going to work policy wise, right? And
Mhm.
governance wise, not just technology and data wise. So there's definitely an expertise, as I hesitate to say advisory consultative, because that makes us sound all McKinsey-esque. It's hands-on shaping with the tax authorities where they're going, getting well ahead of all the ripple down effects that's going to mean, and then going and building the technology and data and integration machine to go make the mandates come on. It ain't simple, but it's an incredibly valuable piece. And again, like you said at the beginning, Jason, it should just work. Nobody should ever hear about it after we get all this done. It should just work. It's like the electric company. You never think about the electric company until the power goes out and you can't see because the lights are out. Kind of the same thing. You should never really talk about Sovos unless something goes down. And then, boy, we're top of mind.
Yeah, let's now just zoom out for a second, talk about the number of types of tax compliance we're talking about here. You're talking about everything from sales tax to tariffs to corporate income tax to personal income tax to other government remittances on behalf of healthcare or whatever else it might be. So bottom line is, which we're talking money going one enterprise paying multiple different forms of taxation, probably in many cases going to multiple different divisions, all with their own multiple different rules. And never mind laying over top the rule sets of where did this work actually happen? Hey, where do you even start? I mean, honestly, that is an incredible level of complexity.
Yeah. Just one quick note. We don't do the personal income tax stuff, Jason. We
Do
do the
like
corporate, like
source from,
1099 and stuff like that, but we don't actually
yeah.
do personal income taxes.
What I mean by that is you're still doing the remittance, you're still doing calculations around
Oh,
remittances. So you're
right.
doing all those calculations and you're issuing 1099. So you're doing the
That's
full.
a no, we do. That's exactly right. That's actually a non-trip. People don't think about that much, but Sovos and some of our competitors, that 1099 is a big, big part of the landscape, and it's something you got to nail right. It's not quite as sexy as getting sales tax right for 1 billion transactions on Black Friday, or getting every transaction and e-invoicing right in 92 countries for big Fortune 500, but it is a requirement nonetheless. And it's really big customers that are the big consumers. It's the Googles, it's the Amazons,
Mhm.
it's the JP Morgan Chases. It's the largest companies in the world that actually use Sovos and platforms like that for the 1099 stuff. So it's bread and butter, but it's incredibly important bread and butter. And Jason, where you start, I think it's this combination of simplicity and complexity. Both things can be true. And we need to have one global tech platform, but then an amazing amount of specificity about what that tech platform does for sales tax in the US or VAT tax in Canada or e-invoicing for Germany or you name it. So from a team's expertise, brain power, focus, you've got this global platform, which is a large company doing large things for large customers that then has all this. It's almost like a university, right? A university is one thing, but the science people need to be right dead on in science, and the law school needs to be good in law, and the business school needs to be good in business, and the medical school needs to be right. I think it's a good analogy. You're one big university that does a lot of things consistently across the board, but each individual school, right, needs to be best in class in its own individual degree. I think companies like Sovos and in the industry are the same thing. We're one big, huge tax compliant platform, but what it does in each one of these disciplines needs to be as focused as what a law school would do versus a business school and a university.
Now, how much of what you're selling goes directly to that corporation for them to access directly versus through, say, a third party software company handling something else
Yeah,
and taxing part of that?
we had this premise that, hey, well, this is an important piece, but really the more important part of what I do, yes, I log into Sovos in a number of ways. And yes, I have Sovos software. And yes, I use Sovos software. But the magic is it's part of an overall AP automation workflow or an AR automation workflow or part of procure to pay or seamless within e-commerce or seamless within ERP. So there is a heavy integration component right up here in the enterprise and the up market, Jason, where it's probably more important in how well you interoperate and enable all those other large financial applications inside the office of the CFO. And that's integration, because Sovos is still its standalone platform. So you're spending 7 figures on Sovos and you're connecting it to the 8-figure investment with SAP. And it will always be that way up here in the enterprise market. We also made a bet that in the mid-market and down, gosh, that 50-person company doesn't want to mess with this at all. They're going to want to buy it through Intuit QuickBooks, or buy it through Sage, or buy it through Epicor, or buy it through Shopify, or buy it through My Coupa Pay. And we said, hey, that's going to be an embed strategy. And that's really the two faces of Sovos' business. Is it goes direct and the customer purchases direct, implements Sovos and integrates it with all the other things in the up market. And in the down market, Intuit's e-invoicing offering is powered by Sovos. So is Sage's, right? Shopify's filing power. We've taken a embedded approach into other people's software, because that small business literally would like Sage or Shopify or Intuit to be all things for them, so they don't have to mess with software vendors like us. And that's where the embedded infrastructure, and gosh, last count, there's about 300 e-commerce and financial and accounting applications that Sovos powers, where we are the solution for compliance inside that application. And that's mid-market on down, because we just don't want to even chase that directly. And we don't think that the customers want to buy separate solutions. They want to buy one thing from one company, and we're the solution inside.
That makes sense. You solved the problem at the highest, most abstract level possible, build up all the intelligence surrounding it, offer a tool to those who have dedicated departments solely
Correct.
make sure this sort of compliance. So you're enabling the actual needs of that end user versus everyone else. And then you turn around and basically say, we don't understand that side of the market. We're not going to try to push our market and go down to it or create a consumer application, because that's not it. But the value of your intelligence that you baked in is still a massive value to them. So effectively licensing or whatever kind of deal you're doing is the smartest way to go about that.
It's the absolute best for their end user customers. And it's the best for those partners too, right? Sage, Coupa, Tungsten, Shopify, Intuit, they don't want to go through the blood, sweat, and tears of trying to build what Sovos did either. So it's a win-win. It's a win for them, because they get to just embed something they would rather not build themselves. And it's a really good win for their customers, because their customers want that one-stop shop. And this enables our customers to get that one-stop shop from that partner. So it's a pretty straightforward thing. We certainly didn't invent that notion of embedding right into other people's, but it's particularly appropriate for this market at this time with this complexity. And it's a big part of why Sovos is growing down market too, is not because we're trying to compete head to head by hiring 1,000 sales reps and competing head to head with people like Avalara. We just don't think that's the right win. The buyer simply doesn't want to buy from a tax supplier down there. They will always want to buy a complicated platform up in the enterprise. It's interesting how you run a company that half of its day is embedded into other people's applications and the other half is embedded in that big enterprise direct application. That certainly is a level of specificity that you need to stay focused on, because they're pretty different, but we need to be really world-class at both.
Yeah, exactly. I think you also hit the nail on the head. Where it works best is where you don't think about it, where you're not necessarily logging into the software. Because at the end of the day, everybody is logging into something for a job to be done. What is the job that they are looking to accomplish within that framework and within that software? You know, for most, especially we'll go working small to medium-sized enterprises, even to, we'll call them Fortune 500, but sub below that, most of it is not specifically about tax, or it's their job touches tax, but that's not their job. So how do you enable that without getting in the way?
And again, it's have to have, right? What's driving all of this is governments, right? The governments are making everything go digital. And they're saying all the right things. Oh, this is about automation and quality. Yeah, and by the way, that's true. But okay, underneath that beautiful altruistic veneer is the governments and the tax authorities around the world. They want your data and they want your money, right? And they're going to continue to push this digitization, because when you are forced onto, whether it's the new IRS platform here, or whether it's in 85 countries around the world that are forcing you to go digital and do things like e-invoicing and file it that way, they literally have every single transaction. They have all the data, right? They can fill out pre-filed reports and send them to you if they want to. It's a way for them to close the tax gaps in countries
Yeah.
like us. And it's a way, quite frankly, to generate billions of dollars in new revenue for a lot of your G20 markets around the world. So governments are not going to stop forcing technology because they want more and more of your data and they want more and more of your money.
Yeah.
And they're making it mandatory to comply, hence the word compliance. So it'd be nice.
Well, in fairness,
This
it's
is
also
one of those
zoom out
things
on
that we
this
could
for a
opt
sec.
out of, but guess what? We can't.
Well,
And that's
so
only
you
going to
say
get more complicated. Yeah,
to zoom out and say they want more and more of your money. Yes, but let's be frank right now. They want the money that they're entitled to under the current rules.
correct.
And let's face it, this is just a battle of incentives, right? The
Right.
tax authority's job is to collect the taxes that you owe, full stop.
It is what they're owed. The U.S. has, depending on whose math you believe now, 2/3 to 3/4 of $1 trillion in tax gap because they're unable
Yeah.
to collect the tax that they're owed. And that's no different. That's in every single country. So
Because
I'm
the
glad
incentive
you
on the
made
other side is
clarification.
not
It's
to
not like
pay
they're
it,
being
right?
nefarious. The tax that they are owed, they have a big gap in collecting it. And this forced digitization not only gets in the data, it gets in the money they're owed to the tune of billions of dollars. So it's a real financial lever. And they're going to continue to push that agenda. So we as the customers are taxpayers, and therefore we as Sovos who support the taxpayers, right, with this compliance platform, our work is just getting started. This is only going to intensify. It's not going to mitigate.
No, I agree with you
Yeah.
there. Oh, all right. Now you cover a lot of areas. We went over a bunch of them, but you've even gone into more recent fields of compliance reporting, say crypto reporting in particular. I'm curious as to the challenges you saw there. Are you specifically, I think you're not the ones actually going and finding crypto investors. You're basically going probably to the exchanges on their platforms and offering your services there. Is that the case?
That's exactly right. That's a good example of even sleepy old tax. That's a big innovation. A couple fun facts there, Jason. And again, this is a little bit depending on whose data you read, but everybody's data points to the same order of magnitude. And that is that the federal government processed 5 to 6 billion forms last year. The 1099 DA, which is crypto,
Mhm.
is expected to take that volume to 12 to 13 billion forms next year alone. This is literally the largest single increase in form volume that the IRS will handle ever in history by a long shot. It's going to more than double it. So the government has had to gear up massively for that kind of inflow because they've never had to process anything like that. And then the vendors like us have needed to actually go develop the solutions so that our customers, they don't need to worry about it. You got me? Yep. You can handle my 3x the form volume? Yep. You're going to do it right with the government's new systems? Yeah. So there's a lot of collaboration with the IRS going on with not just Sovos, but other players in the space like us, so that we're all ready when that happens. It's an order of magnitude thing that the industry really hasn't seen before. Basically, it's not only the exchanges like crypto or like Coinbase or like Kraken, but it's also all the TradFi, right? All the banks are gearing up, right? All the financial institutions. So it's a couple hundred exchanges, which is really concentrated in the top 5 on the edge. But most traditional financial institutions are gearing up, either have or gearing up to have products this way. So this is going to go a couple thousand financial institutions deep before it's all said and done. It's not just going to be the exchanges.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
All right. So you've gotten into that space. I had to ask this interesting question. So any area you've gotten into that kind of surprised you and you're like, didn't think we'd end up there.
This is one of innovation involving the IRS in digital currency. Okay. Didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that.
Or
Got it. Fair enough.
But didn't
Yep.
see that coming. Number one. Number two, probably not that was coming, but the speed with which this e-invoicing continuous tax control mandate is lighting around the globe now. Because again, it took us 15 years to get to 10 countries that have these mandates, and they're mostly in Latin America. Over the next 2 years, we're going to see 35 more of them roll out right across all of Middle East, all of Asia Pacific, and all of Europe. And you probably saw Vita. It's this VAT tax in a digital age where it's actually going to be standardized across all 32 European countries by the end of the decade. So the speed and alacrity with which that particular thing was a surprise. Not that it happened, but how aggressively and how fast. I'd say the third one is this is an interesting development, but it makes sense. In Sovos, we call it trust, which is like identity and validation. And it makes sense though. E-invoicing and VAT is about the trusted transaction, right? Hey, I know that transaction was valid. Trust is basically the actual party. Hey, was that a real company or is that actually right, Jason? And more, those two worlds are really colliding, if that makes sense. So we think of trust and ID as things like what you go through in the airport, right? You got to go through and validate it. Now in most of the airports, they take a picture and, okay, yeah, that's Kevin. He's clear to fly. In a lot of markets, and this is in Latin America and starting in Europe a lot, it's starting in banking, it's starting in utilities, it's starting in telco and a lot of others. People are wanting to put that trusted identity and that trusted transaction together. It's good for Sovos. It's the fastest growing part of our business in a big way. 2.5 years ago, when I came into this industry for the first time, I would not have necessarily expected trusted identity and tax to come together, but it makes all the logical sense in the
Yeah, it
world.
makes perfect sense.
And it
Just to
is
say
put
that
together very, very aggressively. Yeah.
this is why, same reason that the Social Security or the equivalent around the world became an identifier number
That's
for
right. That's
individuals
exactly
because
right.
it becomes a default. Well, we already know who you are from a tax. We already know you should pay this authority based on the
Yep.
fact it's a tax authority. We know that you're a company paying this authority. We validated all that. We know your identity. So being able
I think
to
that's
productize that makes a lot of sense.
when you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. However, did I actually see that when I joined the company? No. So that's the third surprise. And I'll
Mhm.
give you one more, and that is just again 2.5 years ago when I came in here, none of us, myself included, realized the voracious pace that AI was going to hit us. And obviously, that's an internal, right? Using AI for productivity and efficiency and cost inside our organization. Every company, Sovos is included, is under intense pressure to continue to adopt internally, but more importantly, the AI productization that was going to be right thrust upon us and how much we're going to need to be AI product innovators out there. And I'm going to put that into two camps. There's actual products like, hey, AI to make updating 19,000 goods and service codes, tax updates right in real time, or AI to update content and knowledge as things change around the world and the French government makes a change and hey, I can capture them and service it in real time instead of $200,000 a year humans. There's a bunch of products that are going to be AI delivered. And I certainly didn't think that AI was going to be as massive a part of my R&D roadmap and my budget and everything else heading into 2026 2 years ago as it is now. And maybe below that is the 4B. And I think this is the more exciting one is you think about this, right? Sovos will see somewhere between 30 and 40 billion individual transactions. It's actual validated by the government, the buyer, the seller, the product, the price, the border it crossed, goods and services codes, et cetera. It is 100% pure, accurate, real-time updated data. AI is predicated on data. If you don't have good training data, you don't have good AI, right? It really is that simple.
Yep.
And then you think about the business intelligence that companies can glean on that, right? Just like a simple example. Gosh, what if an idiot like me could go in and say, "Hey, show me every zip code in the country where the price of Pinot Noir went up by 5% in the last 2 weeks." And you could go hit a real-time right data with a natural language AI query that would literally tell you, here's all the hotspots for Pinot Noir. And I'm using a really brain dead example. Or show me every single right invoice uptick over 5% where from an Asian manufacturer to European, from an Asian supply chain partner to a European manufacturer, what the intelligence that's going to get gleaned by this data, and that'll be AI assisted too. Now, there's going to need to be a lot of guardrails about what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, and who has access and everything. But shiny object AI products and the need to push those out are cool and needed and important. The ability to go harness this data and the business intelligence it can provide our customers and our partners to me, and then the way AI can allow you to go do with a simple plain English sentence what it used to take a $250,000 a year DBA day to write the script against. I think that's going to be the breakthrough in this category. It's not going to be the generative LLM. It's not going to be the agentic, although those are important. It's going to be this AI derived intelligence. And that's the thing that's probably the biggest surprise. It's probably the thing I'm the most excited about sitting at the company that's at the forefront of it though. So of the four that I mentioned that I'm excited about, crypto is exciting. The pace of global is exciting. All right. Everything else that I said is exciting. What this is going to enable us to do, and that's going to go to 100 billion transactions in 2 years. And it's going to have, we sit on 70, 80% of the GDP in entire countries right now. Right.
Wow.
So it's going to be pretty cool to unleash AI on top of that data in a legal, ethical, right way.
Thank you for
This is
prefacing
also going to
that.
be like
Yeah.
GDPR. There's going to be a bunch of regulation about what you can and can't do with it. But within the rubber walls of regulation, I think is going to be pretty exciting. That's the surprise I'm the most excited about, Jay. I think that's pretty cool.
No,
I
that
don't think we've
was,
even really imagined what we're going to do with it yet, but it's going to be pretty cool.
You are sitting on an absolute treasure trove of data.
Yeah, it's
that
going to be
could
interesting. Yeah.
garner just the policy implications alone for reports you could put together on. The reality is you're getting a good sample size of economic data before the IRS's.
As an example. Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be pretty cool. And one other thing that's going to happen to make all this realize, though, this is another little epiphany. Whether it's the crypto stuff, whether it's the global nature of all these countries rolling on, whether it's this AI, all of this is brand new for the tax departments and even these large Fortune 500 customers. It's another little thing. I've been selling technology for a long time, and I didn't realize how underfunded and under-resourced the tax corner of the office of the CFO is. I
Yep.
go in here and I look at, oh my God, this is easily more than 1/20th of the spend on ERP. This is easily more than 1/20th as important as ERP, yet the budgets are 1/20th of the ERP budgets. So the corporations, they don't just need really forward-thinking intelligence and data and technology providers like Sovos. They need their own upskilling, their own talent, right? They need to really be ramping up what they're doing inside their own corporations. And that's a pretty big gap. And historically, the funding hasn't been there. And now that this isn't just, it was always important to avoid a fine, but now that it's actually true compliance, right? I can't do my digital without it. I can't operate in this country without it. I'm going to be behind if I'm not using AI powered. This has put a new urgency on it. And the good news is I'm finally watching the CFO realize that this whole category needs a little bit more funding and a little bit more resources and a little bit more love, because it's way more important than you would think when you look at the relative investment. That's the good thing. The challenging thing is even the most sophisticated companies in the world are really playing catch up because they didn't see these things coming either. And they certainly aren't staffed or expertise or tooled up as well. So if you're a big four tax tech consultant, right? If you're Accenture, Capgemini, if you're vendors like Sovos, it's a good time because the customers need a lot of help, both from the services and advisory partners and from the technology partners like us. But they really need to close these gaps quick because the tax authorities aren't going to wait. And this is something they've underinvested in for 10 years. And now they're going to have to really, really go blow the doors off from an investment over the next 4 or 5 quarters.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all fleshes out.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I asked to end on a positive note. The first question I have for you is if you had one wish for something you can change in your company, your industry as a whole, what would it be?
It would be that I would put a big shot of human growth hormone into that maturity curve I just referenced and make everybody grow 10 quarters in the next 10 weeks.
Yeah.
The magic steroid shot that could do all that catch up I just referenced in a matter of weeks rather than a matter of years.
Yeah, that's quite the wish. It's going to remain a wish.
Yep,
It
it will.
One of
Yep.
my diatribes I often do is too often starts with a foundational belief that they even have the right people in those positions that understand the scale of what's possible given the technology.
Which would be a flawed assumption. Yeah. Foundation to all of. So if I could magic wand, I would push there. The steroid shot I would give if I had my wish.
Yep. Second question for you is what's been the biggest challenge in getting the company to where it is today, besides integrating 24 different systems?
We were a company that was just a long-standing, entrenched, again, furniture. But we were doing, hey, I sell this solution to this buyer. My job, I sell to the sales and use tax manager, to the tax manager for the toilet paper division in Canada at Kimberly-Clark. That's what I do, right? I sell this solution in this country to this tax manager. And the company was really good at that, but the company did that 25 ways, 25 products, or 25 countries. To make that pivot to nope, you are actually, and forgive the fancy words, you're now a mission critical system of record that needs to go satisfy the CFO and the CIO globally for Kimberly-Clark. That is such a change. When you need to go become a global platform or a global system of record that sells to the CIO instead of the CFO, instead of what you've been, which is that trusted appliance, you're right around the world for 20 plus years. It's like childhood, puberty, right? Adulthood. You're right. That 18 years all squished into 2 years. I've literally had to take that journey. And that means pushing people really, really hard. It means injecting new talent that has never been before. It means forcing zebras to change their stripes or old dogs to new loop trips. And unfortunately, it means parting ways with some people that just don't want to get on that journey. And hey, if this is not my comfortable old Oldsmobile anymore, I don't want my father. I want my father's Oldsmobile. I don't want this new thing. So people opt out, right? Because they're just not up for that kind of change. So it's the people change that's always the toughest when you have to pivot the way Sovos has had to pivot.
It is the people change is always one of the biggest challenges in every
It
business
is.
we talk to. And last question I have for you is what keeps you excited and getting you out of bed in the morning to keep on fighting the good fight?
It is knowing the acuity of the need. This compliance tidal wave, and forgive me, I like to speak in analogies. This tidal wave's coming, whether it's the crypto one, whether it's the right e-invoicing one, whether it's the AI one, whether it's the trust one. These are all really, these aren't 6-foot surfing waves. These are like 40, 60, 80 feet tsunami waves. And they're coming in hot and they're coming in hard. And again, they're not avoidable because the tax authorities and the governments are not going to let them be. So knowing that there's this big gulp, deer in the headlight by our customers around the world saying, oh boy, not really ready for that, but that wave's hitting the shore, whether I like it or not. And being one of the companies that's actually been planning ahead of that for the last 10 years, building the mousetrap, building the expertise, and knowing that we will be ready, right, when that tidal wave hits, and being able to literally say, take a breath, put down the blood pressure medication. We got you, right? We're going to actually get you through. That is an intense amount of gratification to be able to do that for your customers in a time of violent change like this. For my customers, and on the flip side, the employees that do want to be on the journey, letting those people be attached to something this cool is pretty cool. So it's just like people change is the most challenging thing. What we're doing to people's careers, right? Whether it's the customer that looks great because they landed that tsunami hitting the shore flawlessly, or whether it's the employee that never thought he or she could be stretched this far, this fast, this exciting inside the company or anywhere in between. The people piece is the thing that I am the most grateful for and get the most gratitude out, as well as being the challenging part.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, Jason, thank you for having me.
So that was Kevin Akeroyd, CEO of Sovos. If you are in the need of a enterprise level tax compliance software, please take a look, because as you heard, there's a lot that goes into that. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.